a difficult question to answer, but I can only quote John F. Kennedy here. And he says, every area of trouble gives a ray of hope. And the one unchangeable certainty is that nothing is certain or unchangeable. So as the famous proverb says, it's only change is the constant thing. So with that, let's keep up the hope and go forward to combat COVID. And my session is all about discussing with you how volunteers can come in support along with the CSOs in combating the COVID situation. As you know, and many of my fellow panelists share about the upside and downsides of the civil societies which we are going through now. Firstly, let's take the worst part, the downside. I consider the most unfortunate thing and the downside for us to be away from our community. See, for the civil society organization, our strength has always been our community, our proximity to the community, the strength of the community. But we are told to maintain a distance with our community. And our traditional strategies and approaches to solve the problem have lost the relevance. We need to completely recalibrate our thinking. We need to completely recalibrate the way we need to approach to the same age-old problem, actually. So the upside is actually the importance of civil society organization is realized by government, especially some of you have noticed the Niti Aayog proactively reached out to NGO sector, seeking the solidarity, seeking the support. The CEO himself wrote to many civil society organizations asking for the support. The government is, at least in this situation, recognizing the need and importance of civil society partnership. And when our other partners are moving away, the local organizations and individual donors are approaching civil society organizations to partner to combat the local challenges. And another opportunity as an organization development opportunity is to overall of our organization. We got the time, probably, though it is not a pleasant thing to do, but we got the time to do the overhauling of the activity. What is necessary and what is sufficient for our organization. That's something we got the time in this COVID moment. COVID and impact of development sector. I'm sure like all the panelists talked about how the NGO sectors impacted, but being research organizations, my fellow panelists shared with their experience, but I'm trying to convince you all with the evidences. So GRAAM is actually currently doing a study, a survey to understand the impact on NGOs and as well as NGO employees, what the COVID has actually caused on them. So you can also request through this platform that please participate in that survey. What NGOs said? 73% said the projects are affected, and 74% said it's not growth; it's a regressive growth in their journey. 49% said there's a fear of closing the organizations. So if the situation continues, if there is no new hope, no new support, 49% of the small organizations are on the verge of closure. 57% of the organizations said no new projects started or approved in this movement. And 64% said ongoing projects abruptly stopped. The project which was going on from last 1 year, 2 years, now they have been asked to stop those projects. 52% of the organizations said financial resources for the major projects have been completely stopped. And 35% said the funding is partially reduced. This some of the preliminary findings, and I surely look forward an opportunity to share much more strong evidences and why we, as a civil society organization, we need to express solidarity and stay together in this moment. And coming to the NGO employee side, so 35% have reported to be losing jobs. They already lost job, and 20 are likely to lose job. That means put together it's more than 55%. 38% are in mental stress. Our colleague, our fraternity, said they are in mental stress. 45% are in financial stress, and family issues are already erupted in 34% of the respondents' cases. Only 16% have savings funds to sustain without job at least next 6 months. And only 9% reported to have confidence of getting any new job. And 75-8% feels they have to start their life afresh from this from the fresh drink. Friends, yes, it is really true. We are in the very difficult and distressed situation. So many organizations going to the square one from the day they are reaching the day they started the organization. But so today, let's not lose hope. As John F. Kennedy said, there's a new ray of hope in every trouble. Let's see what are those opportunities we have in front of us to combat, at least in the way of the volunteer engagement. I'm not going to stay for more time on this slide. We know that there's a distress on children, there's a distress on public health issues. RCH care is severely affected. Non-communicable diseases are completely forgotten. Psychological issues are erupted. Actually, the livelihood issues. There is a migrant labor issue. There's a market issues for the agricultural commodities. Unorganized sector workers are suffering a lot. And unfortunately, we are expecting that nearly 1 crore children probably are estimated to be dropped out of the schools if the situation continues like this. But what's volunteering? So why should we think of volunteering at this moment? Is it essential for non-profit organizations to think about volunteering? As you know, it's considered as an altruistic activity where the people and the organization want to give out their time, give out their skills, give out their services to benefit other person or organizations. So majority of non-profit, this is an unfortunate thing, but majority of the non-profits feel that volunteers are nice to have, but not must to have. So we always feel that. So volunteers, what they can do, they can come, stay for some time, do whatever they can do, but it is not necessary, it is not must for an organization. But let me share you the statistics from the US. Unfortunately, we don't have much statistics about volunteering contributions and in terms of the monetary value in India. But in US, according to a report in 2006, national value of volunteer time is with the $24 per hour count. So there is 14,000 crores of monetary value is contributed towards the sector. That's a huge contribution for a civil society organization. And as we all know, volunteers engage with any organization with passion. It's not a profession for them, but with a lot of passion, they come to work with non-profit organizations. That's the reason why we need to engage with volunteers. Why it is important to work with volunteers during and after COVID. It's not only during COVID, but it's also after COVID. One is basically it's for ourselves. What do you mean by ourselves? The situation created by COVID will only intensify these challenges and impact the work of NGOs. So many reports are coming out. How many years some of the industries, some of the sectors are going to take to resume back to the position of 2019, where they were actually. So it's not forget about growing further. To reach back the situation of 2019, some of the sectors are expected to take 5 to 10 years. Unfortunately, we have a ray of hope. The McKinsey's report says in civil society organization or the development sector probably come back to the position in 2 years, 2 to 3 years of time. It's actually why we need to work with volunteers. It's need to gain confidence and retain hope. Volunteers, engaging with external people, volunteers, will actually help civil society organization to gain more and more confidence and retain the hope. We need to retain the hope and gain the confidence in the community as well. And we ourselves need a psychological strength. When more and more good people are around us, certainly we are expected to get more psychological strength. And also to try something new. So try something different so that we can taste the success in the difficult time and create hope for ourselves and our stakeholders. That's more important to keep up the spirit. That's the reason we need to engage with volunteers. And most importantly, it's for our knowledge and skills. So as Uday Kumarji initially sharing, so we need to, and also Jayant sir was saying in the initially, so we need to learn to operate, learn to engage with our stakeholders in a virtual mode. So we need those skills, online skills and technology skills. Recalibrating the projects to address the effect of COVID. As I was sharing in the other slide, the same problem, same developmental problems are going to continue. But there's a new cause of COVID to that actually. So we need to recalibrate, reorient all our strategies, all our projects to address the effects of COVID. That's where we need support of volunteers also. And effective communication of our activities. We NGOs do a lot of work, but very poor in communicating what we are doing. That is where we can also take the support of volunteers to communicate our activities effectively. And we need volunteers to build a complementary support mechanism. In fact, I have an other opinion. Some of my readings suggest me that government actually needs support. Government is unfortunately not in the position to support us both financially as well as in other ways, probably for next 1 or 2 years. So, but government needs support. Government needs the solidarity of civil society organizations. Corporate and philanthropists may provide financial support, but NGOs need to play a role, and we need volunteer support for that. So that's something very important. To build a complementary support mechanism to the larger world, we need the support of volunteers. And fourthly and importantly, the organization development. We need to keep our organization growing and going. So we need to optimize our resources, plan our resources, and mobilize our resources. Engagement of volunteers can also help us to reduce our expenditures, especially the operational expenditures. It can reduce actually. So you can also look forward to get the support of these volunteers as our goodwill ambassadors. They are the ambassadors for us to mobilize the resources also. And importantly, we can use their support to review the systems and processes which are prevalent in our organizations. And there are various theoretical models available about the volunteering, but I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to complex your thought processes. I'm trying to present this volunteering model, what we have, how we can engage with organization. I'm trying to propose the 3C model for engagement of volunteers in our organizations. The model one is the complete model. Second model is the complement model. The third one is the component model. What's the complete model? It's the whole initiative of our project is handled by volunteers. The NGO just provide a platform and facilitate the team of volunteers or the group of volunteers to create a new project, a new initiative, and handle it independently. It's something like a project by the volunteers and project of the volunteers, and it's project for the community. So that is a complete volunteering model. And in fact, we have many organizations which is completely run by volunteers actually. So what is the advantage of this model? This is actually the need-based activity which your organization wanted to do for long and could not do due to lack of resources that will be taken up using this volunteering model. And some of the times we have ideas to solve the problem, but we don't know whether those ideas will really work, whether it's pragmatic. So with the engagement of volunteers, we can try to establish the proof of concept and also to do these experimentations so that there is no much fear of failing through volunteers. So we can use them as a resources to experiment, to establish a proof of concept. And of course, any model comes with a limitation. Of course, there's a risk of failure also. The volunteers can completely fail. The lack of continuity, in case organization doesn't engage with them, they can they come, they do something and they go. We don't even know, we don't even remember what they have done. So that kind of limitations we'll be having, and may not get institutionalized if the core staff are detached from this volunteering activity. So this is one model available for us to adopt and run our organizations, run our programs in the COVID movement and the lack of resources. The other model we have is complementary model, wherein the activities of the project which are handled by the full-time staff are complemented to augment the quality of the work as well as to expedite the output. So how it works actually, the time of core staff can be deployed to other activities and other projects, or even sourcing the new project with the engaging of volunteers. The complementing skill gaps are existing staff. Our existing staff can be excellent in field work but lack technology skills that can be complemented with the engagement of the volunteers in this model. The limitation of complement model is duplication of efforts, and highly skilled volunteers may not be motivated just to complement some of the works already being done by your core staff. The third model, the component model. A component model actually it's all about a component of a project is designed to be handled by volunteers independently. It's kind of a middle path. For example, if you are running a reproductive child health project, the digital communication of our behavioral change communication module of the project can be made available to be handled by the volunteers. So this is an advantageous model in a way because it helps us to duplication of efforts can be avoided, because your core staff can engage in some of the activity, the volunteers can be engaged in some of the activity. The independent task to volunteers as well as the core staff. But the limitation of this model is the coordination and integration challenges. So how you make the core staff and volunteers to coexist and co-work together. And it needs experienced volunteers actually. So it cannot be done with a fresh set of volunteering actually, volunteers. There are multiplier effects of engaging with volunteers. What are they? The unpaid volunteers are often considered as the glue that holds a community together, contribute to work and save resources, and they can help us to reflect, review, and recalibrate. As I said, they can be something like active respondents, active engaged stakeholders in the process of reflecting our projects, reflecting about our organization, review our systems and processes, and completely recalibrate our strategies and our approaches. They can bring innovations, they can bring fresh thoughts, and they can also bring out of the box ideas. And they are not only to do our today's work, but they get our tomorrow's work. So if they once become the goodwill ambassadors, they can certainly source resources and projects for us in the days to come. And what are all the approaches to engage, proactively engage volunteers? I'm using the word proactive volunteer engagement because this is the time where we need support. In civil society organizations, we need support of external people and more interested people to sustain our organizations. So we need to develop a volunteer engagement and management plan. So offer a variety of volunteering opportunity in your organization. Build a better volunteer application in your organization. Publicize in social media and volunteer sourcing portals. I'm giving some of the volunteer sourcing portals in this presentation, so you can make use of them and publicize your volunteer requirement, volunteer opportunities in your organization. And more importantly, we need to communicate what is there for the volunteers in this project, what is there for the volunteers in this organization. So as we know, actually volunteers gain more from volunteering. Of course, community and our organizations gain a lot, but they have a lot of things to gain, and we need to very clearly communicate what they gain from engaging with our organization or engaging with the cause. The chief functionary, a top management, personally required to oversee the volunteering program at least for the next 2 years. It's not deploying some staff or manager to oversee the volunteering activity. As a chief functionary, we need to take the responsibility of overseeing the volunteering activity for the next 2 years at least. So there are volunteer finding resources available for you. Some, for example, I volunteer, volunteering in India.com. All those the websites are already available to help you out to look and choose for volunteers. And volunteering in the the local level. So in the COVID times, how we can actually engage volunteers to solve some of the local issues. As you all know, life and livelihood is severely affected because of the COVID. Our farmers are there in the rural area, but unfortunately, the market linkages are not available for them, even for our artisan goods available. So we can engage volunteers to find those market linkages using the new technologies. In fact, social media is an excellent opportunity to provide those linkages. So volunteers can help us to do those activities. And mapping of skills of returned migrant workers, that's something important we need to do at this level. And local livelihood opportunities, doing local market surveys, understanding what is the local need, that can be done through engagement of volunteers. And in the areas of education, we need to come out with alternative learning models. As Gopinath was suggesting, children may not even see schools probably in this year, but we cannot afford to stop learning. So learning of children actually, we need to come out with alternative learning models and strengthening government schooling system. That is where the local volunteers can help. And interpersonal communication as well as behavioral change communication is very important. So of course, many of the articles are suggesting that what NGOs could not achieve to sensitize people about the public hygiene, COVID has done. So COVID made people to wash their hands regularly or probably keep their personal hygiene in just 3 to 4 months. So, but this behavioral change should be continuous and consistent and sustainable. So we need the participation of volunteers to sustain those efforts. And health and well-being is more important. We have RCH problems, we have preventive healthcare activities can be taken up, and more importantly, social benefits. Government has got a lot of benefits, schemes available, but unfortunately, beneficiaries lists are not available. Beneficiaries don't know how to access those benefits. In fact, volunteers can support us in listing the eligible beneficiaries as well as facilitating for their social. And most importantly, we also need to think like social entrepreneurs. COVID essential kits can be made available using the volunteers. We have volunteers who can teach how to make masks. We can get volunteers who can teach our local community how to make sanitizers, as well as to give the immunity boosting medicines. So that's a revenue kind of a model also. You can serve the local people as well as generate revenue using this activity. At the national level, of course, we have less scope. Many things are being already done. The information analytics is one area where we need the support of skilled human resources. And long-term sustained IEC and BCC strategy and activities required to be taken forward using the support of volunteers. And more importantly, we need the volunteer support, the state teams in bringing government, the private sector, civil society organization, other stakeholders on board to shape concrete interventions and organizing a stakeholder consultation process. This is where we can also use the volunteer support in this various activities. And finally, we need to accept to co-work with like-minded NGOs. I think this answers many of my NGO fraternity friends' question, how to work with less resources. We need to complement our strength, share our resources, and to work like a support system with our fellow NGOs. As Gopinath was suggesting, it could be sharing our human resources, sharing our workplace, sharing our resources, so that we can cut down our cost and sustain for a little longer period. And learn and practice to create emergency funds. Most of us are project-based. We do project-based accounting as well as cash-based accounting. We need to move towards fund-based accounting system. Start creating some funds to manage and mitigate the emergencies, at least from now on. We need to negotiate with our donors for staff welfare funds and ensuring PF, ESI gratuity benefits to us. I'm saying this importantly because many of the civil society organizations are not offering these social security benefits to the staff. If that is made available, certainly they would have a better position to handle the situation. And let us proactively plan and accommodate volunteers. A benefit to the community, they are a benefit to the organization, also a benefit to the disadvantage to the organization. And finally, I thank you all for this volunteering opportunity. I have done my volunteering, and it's time for all of us to engage volunteering and do our volunteering also. Thank you so much.